ingredients, we have dried parsley flakes, rosemary leaves, a big thing of garlic powder, a salt-free Italian seasoning mix, a clove of garlic which we'll dice up and which will supplement the garlic powder, a normal white table salt, extra virgin olive oil, and your normal pepper. And we're going to combine that with a large chunk of butter and put all of that into the water that we will then boil the lobsters in. And we'll also use some of that to treat the shrimp. What we have is we have 2 lobsters. They were on special for $9.99 a pound, which worked out well, and we were able to do the entire meal for less than $20 a piece, which, given what we're cooking,
so what I've done is I've taken 3
garlic
garlic cloves, and I find the easiest way to peel them quickly and easily is just to take them, put them in the microwave, 15 seconds. Actually, you only need about 5 to 10 seconds. Let that run through. Anything more than that, and you're probably going to burn yourself and get cooked garlic. I open it up, I can hear it sizzle. I'm going to pull these out, being really careful because they are hot. And the great thing about that is I can just put it under the knife, squish it, and then let it cool down a little bit, and then it just falls right out just like that. I'm going to dice that up, and then I'm going to put that in with all the seasonings, and that's just going to kind of supplement the garlic that we add to it and fill out the flavor. Alright, I just finished putting in a couple dabs of rosemary, and I'm going to now just, take my parsley, and I want to just sprinkle it in. I put a little water in there to start things off, and then I'm going to fill it up a little bit more, and we're going to put it in the boil. Definitely make sure you put all the seasoning in before you start preparing the water and before you start heating it up, so it really has time to flavor the water as much as anything. So, pretty good covering of parsley there, and then again, maybe like garlic, it depends on what you're doing, but I'm going to give that a real hearty covering, and that's basically just going to sit on top of the water and almost give it a white yellow icing. So I'm going to get that in there, some of this Italian seasoning, and again, just, I like a lot of flavor, and I really like to flavor the water up, which I find really complements the flavor of the lobster or crab when we're cooking that. So this works out really well. Get a good hearty layer of that. And then salt. I'm a huge fan of adding a hearty amount of salt, because that, more than anything else, brings the flavor out and really kind of, you're eating seafood, it comes from the ocean. You don't have salt water, so you got to kind of make it. And I will just go for a hearty pour on that. And keep in mind that you're going to be putting enough water in there to cover the lobster or the crab completely, so that you can do it humanely. So, that's going to fill it up a lot. So we'll put a little bit more in here, and that'll probably handle us pretty good. It's kind of a slow stream. And then butter in the water ahead of time. You'll use some butter with it when you're actually eating it after you've cooked it. But, I like pre-melted butter, and just kind of take a slop like that, and I just toss it in there. And then what we did is we minced up the garlic ahead of time, and this is the garlic that we had peeled earlier, and just fairly fine. And toss that in there. And then the next important 2 steps are, little pepper, and again, like the garlic, I'm going to just apply the pepper until it pretty much just kind of covers the surface and floats on the surface. Again, that's something that really goes a long ways towards flavoring the water, adds a lot to it. And once I've done that, a little olive oil just to kind of soften things up. Just a splash of that. And then go ahead and come take a look at what it looks like. So we're going to stir that up and let it mix. And then we're going to put a bit more water in there. And I'm probably going to fill it up to right about here. That lobster's going to take a lot of space. We want to give the room, the water room to kind of come up a little bit when we bring it to a boil. And we'll let that heat up while we prepare everything else. Alright, we have brought our water up to a boil. Unfortunately, one of the rubber bands broke. So this guy's going in first. I'm going to kind of juggle him in. It's incredibly important to be as humane as possible. Make sure the water is really hot, bring it up to a boil, and let it boil for a little while. If you look at this water, it's brown, and that's just from the herbs and the butter and everything else really coming into it. The other thing to keep in mind is that it's hard to get them in there without splashing. You want the carapace in, not the tail, but these guys have a huge tail, and they will splash. So we're going to give this a go. This is boiling hot water. Let's hope I don't get drenched. And normally I would put it in upside down so the carapace went straight in. I can't do that because of this claw, so I'm just going to kind of drop him in. Alright. This is not going to go well. Actually went really well. Hold the lid down. It takes a little while for everything to finish off, any muscle spasms. The hot water really tightens everything up. Let it settle a little bit, and then after that, that should bring you out of your boil. There you go. It all locks up. Assumes that kind of classic lobster form, which you're used to with the tail popped up and everything. That's just, as it boils and everything tightens. I'm going to crank my water level back up now that I've added that in there. And we're just going to put that in for 3, 4, 5 minutes. Let it kind of come up, boil around a little bit more. And then pop it out, bring it back up to a boil, and pop the other one in there. Getting it out is difficult. But what we've done is we've let it basically boil until the carapace started to kind of pop up a little bit. And you start to get white floaties, and that's kind of the lobster butter floating around within the pot. You can see some of that right there. So that is a good indication that it's done. I'm going to carefully try and do this. And now just drop it onto the plate. And if you look at the shell, you can see that it's popped up right there. And so it's also this beautiful deep orange. So got that there. Let's dive it in. You got your great looking lobster, but let's face it, can't eat it like that. So you want to separate your tail section. And I was not expecting that to pour out like that. But when you separate it, don't just set the head aside. I mean, you want to definitely suck all of these legs, and of course crack open the claws. But there's also a lot of meat in the head. Especially there's going to be a lot of the lobster butter right here on the top of the carapace, and so I'm going to dive back into that here a little bit later. Set this aside for now, and then just dive into it. And luckily we didn't overcook this. It's nice, it's really moist, flaky, and really messy. And I'm just going to carefully crack it down the middle if I can. One last link. And now I have this beautiful tail section, which I'm just going to take a small bite out of. And that tastes absolutely delicious. The salt and the seasoning and the butter we put into the water initially has all really come in and completely saturated the meat, so that flavor still carries over, but it doesn't overpower the flavor of the lobster. So anyway, I'm going to get to this. So, as you just saw, when I opened the carapace, there was this green goo that came out. And to be honest, I haven't really encountered it in this form before, but I'm curious. Now, in a lot of places, sucking the shrimp head or really getting into a lot of the boiled matter within the carapace is really delicious. This looks a little intense, and if you take a look there, it's definitely green and an interesting texture. So, in the spirit of adventure, it tastes very planktony, but not exactly something I would seek out. Nevertheless, not half bad, and I'm still alive. So cheers.